What is going on, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic today. Today, we are bringing you guys the top 5 gods to be playing in support in Ranked. I could have said top 5 supports to play in Ranked, but I said gods and I committed to it. Idiot! In patch 9.8, starting off with number 1, Aries. We've even got some build guides, a little bit of tips and stuff with him and why he's so good right now. So Aries actually got a nice little buff last patch. Right here, Mario can bring it up right here. Maybe show you guys. His god damage per tick got bumped up 5 per minion, and his ult is now down also to 90 seconds instead of 100 seconds. He got those nice little buffs, and it actually brings him back into a spot where he can fight you in the early game. When they nerfed him, they killed all sense of being able to fight, because at level 1, he did 20 damage per tick. And then at level 2 is 40 damage. This was with the gods getting the extra tankiness on 9.6, I think it was, or 9.5. With the survivability update. Aries is basically killed at that point. The cooldown is very nice, 90 seconds. Now he can trade ultimates with the enemy, and if he builds a little bit of cooldown, he's always going to be winning it. With Aries, always remember, don't fight 1 and 2. Always just use your 3 at level 1 to group the wave, to clear your wave. Level 2, do the same thing. And then at level 3, put 2 points into your shackles, 1 point into your searing flesh. And then you can look to trade because your damage goes up to 45 damage per tick, and you can make it last like 8 seconds. You can make this do like 300 damage or something like that. But that's why Aries is so strong. A little bit of god build for him. I love Sentinels on Aries. I'm not a big Benevolence guy, even though Compassion counts as an aura. I really like Renewal on Aries right now. And then I really like Manticore, even though it doesn't proc it that well. You're going to see this as a big thing until Manticore gets nerfed. Even next patch, after Manticore gets nerfed, I still think it is going to be worth the buy. It is just too cost-effective, and the passive on it is really strong. Also, even on gods that don't proc it very well. Next up, I would go cooldown items, something like Spirit's Robe. And then here, you can just build whatever you want. Are you getting crit a lot? Go Spectral. Is their mage just absolutely dominating you? Get a Genji's, a Bulwark, a Heart Word. Are you just really safe? You're really far ahead. You want to do a little extra damage. Slap in a Magus, slap in a Deso. From there, you can just kind of take it how you want. Just as a general build that you can build in most games, I would probably just go something like Sov or Emperors. We'll do Emperors for this because I think Emperors is really good in Ranked. We'll do Emperors, and then we'll do Shoguns. And right here, I would upgrade this into... I was a big believer in Sentinel's Boon in Ranked at the beginning of this year, but now that Sentinel's Embraces just got that 6 gold per 5, I think it just kind of eeps it over of the Sentinel's Boon. So I would be going this 90% of the games, as long as they have a pretty standard enemy comp. This is going to be a pretty solid build. That's number 5, Aries. Next up, number 4. Next up is Geb. Geb has just always been a really good ranked god. He's never been my favorite just because usually you have to rely on your ADC to get you through the early game, your jungler to kind of get you through like the early mid game, and then like your team to get you through the mid game, and then late game you can finally pop off. And with the survivability update, Geb just kind of got a little bit stronger. What he wants to do is he wants to keep one enemy or one teammate alive with his Geb shield, and then he wants to just be able to CC with the rest of his abilities. Also, I see it way too much, guys. Do not level Geb shield. Do not level it. Level his 2. Look at this base damage. It goes up 70 damage per rank. I actually cannot think of a single ability that goes up 70 damage every time you put a point into it. The damage almost doubles at level 2. It's the same thing as Aries. It's almost doubling. That's so much value. At the very least, put 3 points into your Shockwave before starting to max out Stone Shield. At that point, Stone Shield actually gets a little bit more strength because its duration goes up. But in the early game, Shockwave's damage is so good, just put points into it. Level your ult, obviously, whenever you can. Level your 1 last, because roll out.
Get your roll on.
Unless you have the Autobot skin, then you want to max this ability, and then just say, Autobots, roll out. Off cooldown, and yeah, it makes sense if you know the skin, if you play the skin. And you're in a semi-truck. It's so cool. It's good. Checking out the build, I'm a big Benevolence fan on Geb. Also, same thing as Renewal. For almost all these gods, I think the build is going to kind of stay the same. The next god, the build might change a little bit, but these first 3 items are just going to be, or first 2 items are going to be pretty consistent. Spirit's Robe, still a big fan of Spirit's Robe. Really good stats-wise. It's going to give you 40 beats protection. It's going to give you 10% cooldown, 20% CCR. And then I think rounding out the build for most of these is going to be pretty consistent also, because you can kind of do anything with Geb also. If you're getting focused a lot, you can go Magi's. If they have a lot of CC, Magi's Shelter is actually not bad on Geb because you're going to be grouped on your team. Magi's Revenge is not bad. Mantle if you're kind of getting blown up and you don't want to be getting blown up. If they have 4 physicals, Sov is always good. 4 magicals, Heartward is always good. Anything special about Geb? Not really. Pythags is in a pretty solid spot for Geb too if you wanted to go Pythags here and then end with a Mantle or end with the either of those other 2 items. Something like this would also work. And then obviously at level 15, because they did buff it, it is no longer 17. I don't know if I've said that in a video yet, but at level 15, you can upgrade your starters. And right now, Compassion is still busted. It is one of the best items in the game once you get it upgraded. You can do Emperors and Shoguns, also still works, but I think Pythax feels really good right now. Next up, number 3, the Mountain Mover. He is just so strong right now. I actually think his strength comes from being able to play multiple roles. He can play solo, he can play jungle, he can play mid for some reason, he can play support. He's very hard to kill, and he does a lot of damage, so he's hard to get away from. Tectonic Shift being on a 75-second cooldown means he wants to fight and can fight more often than you. And then Tremors being on an 8-second cooldown just makes it so if you interrupt it, you're trading your 12-second CC for his 8-second ability that's back up 4 seconds before yours. Max your 2 on Cabrakan. I know I've seen some people talk about it. They talked about it in my Twitch chat also, where you max your 1 on Cab, and I don't think it makes much sense. At least in support. This one, it gets you extra protections. The duration goes up. The damage goes up by 55. Damage goes up just 45 here. You get a little extra movement speed, a little extra cooldown. Still a good ability to max. I think I would go 2, 1, alt 3. In support, it's very hard to like be able to use all that mana. So I like leveling the 3 last. For the God Builder, same thing. I think Cabrakan is one of the few gods where Manticore first would probably feel pretty decent. But at a level where you making a misplay can lose you the game, like at a comp level, I think I'd always go Renewal first. But Manticore is a fine option first, especially if you're confident in your 2v2 and you don't have to worry about losing that early 2v2, because as soon as you get this 2200 gold, you got 40 prots of each, 350 health, 20 MP5. You're going to be doing a lot of damage, and you're going to be very tanky. I would still recommend Renewal first, but I just want to get it out there that I think on a couple characters, Manticore can be fine. And just to make sure it's out there also, if you're playing against 4 physicals, I would probably go Sov even earlier than these 2 items. I'd probably go Renewal into Sov and then Manticore. But just for consistency, like most comps, what's going to be the best? Renewal into Spice is going to be the best. The one thing that Cabrakan also does really well right now is Pythags. You can literally just go Sentinels into Pythags and then Manticore here. And then you have 70 power, 250 health, 24% lifesteal, 10% cooldown, and you're giving this aura to your team. So I think this is fine too. You're kind of just choosing between these ones. I still think Renewal is in a super strong spot, and I'd probably build it over it, but it's still fine. Next up, again, Spirit Robe. I think it's very strong. Emperors, very strong. And guess what? Shoguns, very strong. But I do think Shoguns is a bit weaker on Cabrakan. I think I'd rather just go these 4 items and then like maybe 2 damaging items, like a Mirrodin and a... I still think Rod is not great. They did buff it by 15 power, but I still think it doesn't hit the mark. Probably just go with a flat pit item like a Deso, something like this. 30% cooldown, putting it at like 300 power, which is pretty nice. Never mind, like 200 power. I don't know where I got 300 from. Really strong right now, and he's your number 3 god. And just for the numbers, he's sitting at a 52% win rate, almost 52.5. Next up, another god that got a buff. And he's always been a ranked menace, Bacchus. Again, I don't know the buffs offhand, which I probably should, but his 3 now does damage to minions, which makes his clear even better. This character was actually a really, really solid lightning phase god. His 3 would knock back the minions, group the wave, and then stun you and the minions. So he had a lot of time where the minions wouldn't be autoing him, even if he was hitting you, which would usually mean you're taking minion aggro. But because he's CCing them by knocking them back, he's not taking any damage. A lot of damage into abilities. I still think his passive 1 could just be made into 1 ability because it's kind of redundant. It's just Drunko meter, basically. Power, mitigation, power, protections. I still think he's in a good spot, and I think he's a really good rank god right now. Looking at his build, another Sentinels god. Doesn't make great use out of Compassion. Bacchus, another god. Guess what? Renewal into Manticore. Honestly, at this point, you could build this on almost any god and it would be worth it. Just change the starter depending on who you're playing. This is just such a solid build right now. There's no downside to it. You can build it every game and it's fine. Same thing as if you have Sov, or you build Sov if they have like 4 physicals or something like that. If they have 4 magicals, build a Heartward earlier. But something like this, you can go Emperors, and then you can go Shoguns. But Bacchus, the same thing as Cabrakan. He builds damage really well also. So you could go something like this, and then also Mirrodin and Deso, and he would make a really good use out of it. Also, he's a really good Divine God, because he stacks it with his 3, and he basically has 100% anti-heal. And he's sitting at a 53.86% win rate. And now with the number 1 win rate currently, and the best god to be playing in Ranked right now, in support, Capri. He just got nerfed, and they can't kill him. They can't kill him. They nerfed his revive health. They nerfed his movement speed on the ult. They just cannot kill him. He just does too much. This character is too strong right now. He peels too well. Starting by maxing the 2, leveling the ult whenever you can. I like leveling the 1 before the 3, but I know a lot of players like leveling the 3. I just don't see the value in getting 55 extra damage in 0.1 seconds. I like the protections you get on the pluck. It makes more sense to me, but I get not wanting to use your pluck like that. Better to use your root. But now roots are even worse, so it makes this 3 a little bit worse. So maybe they're changing up how they're doing it, but still, I'm leveling the dash. Benevolence God, 100%, through and through. Renewal, guess what? Manticore. Capri actually has 2 really good ways to proc Manticore. He's actually a really good Manticore God. Spirit's Robe. This is getting a little redundant. Emperor's Armor and Shoguns. And then obviously Compassion, you're not building Animosity on Capri, but that would be pretty funny. So that's what the build would look like for Capri. Just talking about the relics quick. Talk about the strengths when I would build them for all the 5 gods. Ankh, if you really need the anti-heal, if you're playing against a Vamana, Hell, or something like that, build the Ankh. Don't build Aegis. Sprint is in an okay spot. I think the other relics are just a bit stronger, so I don't love Sprint. Blink is good on gods that you need to get in there with. Kabrakan, Bacchus. Speeds if you need to immune an Aries ult, a Serb ult, a Dodgy ult, something like that. Never build Teleport. Med is currently the #1 relic in support. It pairs really well with Renewal. Even if you're not a healer, you become a healer with Renewal and Med. Shell is basically just a worse med right now, but it has Phantom Shell in the late game, so if you need to be able to get through walls. Thorns is terrible. I think Sunder's really bad still too, but it has some viability against Nike, some viability against Lancelot. Bracer of Radiance I think is in a really good spot also. My favorite combo right now is the Med, the Cloak of the Ascetic. Yeah, the Ascetic. And Bracer of Radiance. But the blue racer, I can't think of the name of it though. Horrific's really good if you need to be diving and getting into the backline and reducing their damage. Level it into the Embling of Increasing Peril. And then lastly, Belt of Frenzy, which I think is in a pretty meh spot. Also, same with Sprint. If you want to just watch an objective and just kill it with like a Fafnir and an Amma, I think it's good. Other than that, I think there's better options. But there it is, a little top 5 gods to be playing right now. These are the ones that are going to be winning your rank games. These guys all got like a 52% win rate or over. So they win, and you want to be playing gods that win. Also, make sure you guys check out the Discord if you guys want to be a part of the community. We all gather in there. We play casuals. That's where the place to be is going to be. The place to be is going to be. Also, make sure you guys check out the tournament we are running this weekend. Friday, today, the time this video is coming out, at 6 o'clock, we are running the draft for this big tournament that we are hosting over on Twitch. The draft starts at 6:15. So make sure you guys watch that. It's going to be really entertaining. We got big dogs like Oath, Elion. They're going to be in the draft. They are the captains. So maybe check that out. Saturday is going to be the actual tournament starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. The draft is taking place 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. And I saw one of the Panda YouTubers do it, and I thought it was cool, but he's like, and ring the bell. See you boys. My voice cracked. See you boys.